Hi guys, welcome back to Rad's Retreat, my little home of wood turning. We're in the shack again today, and on this video I thought we'd talk a little bit about the different chucks I've used since I've been wood turning. I've been wood turning approximately 10 years, maybe slightly longer, and over those 10 years the majority of my turning has been done using Axminster chucks. Now, chucks, first of all, they've become an integral part of wood turning these days, haven't they? Years ago, wood turners would use faceplates. But, of course, a chuck is a little bit more flexible, i.e. you can alter the size of the jaws and bolt different jaws on to do different jobs, so they are that little bit more flexible. Of course, they're that bit more expensive as well, but but they have become the prerequisite item for wood turning. So let's get on. This is, well, it isn't the first chuck that I started with was an Axminster clubman chuck. This isn't a clubman chuck, but it looks very, very similar. They're a good quality chuck, but they're not a heavy duty chuck. Having said that, I've had some some really big pieces of wood on this thing. I've had 16 and 20 inch pieces of wood, that's been 6 inches, 8 inches thick. So when I say it's not a heavy duty chuck, it still can accept some big pieces of wood. But that's the type of chuck that I started off on. Then after about 6 or 8, 10 months, I realised I needed something with a bit more, I needed to go up a bit. My wood turning was starting to get a bit more adventurous. So, as I'd bought jaws for the Axminster already, I got another Axminster. And the good thing about Axminster chucks is these jaws will fit on that. These jaws will fit on that. They're all interchangeable. Apart from the latest Axminster Precision chuck, some of the jaws for it will not fit properly on the older chucks. But anyway, I progressed onto this. This is the Axminster Super Precision chuck, and it weighs a ton. This thing is a heavy lump of metal, and it was a great chuck. Served me well. I've had some humongous pieces of wood hanging off this thing. There's a good selection of jaws. When I first started with Axminster chucks, there was a very, very large selection of jaws. Now, over the last few years, that selection has started to disappear. There's less jaws available now than when I first started 10 years ago, which is not a good thing. But there was only one down part to this particular chuck, and that was the fact that it was made out of mild steel, and unfortunately they'd not put any anti-corrosion coating on it, i.e. chrome plating or nickel plating, something like that. So you could lock up your shack one day, come back a couple of days later, and this thing would be red with rust, and it used to annoy the hell out of me. In fact, on the bottom of it, where it's been sat on the shelf, you can actually see that it's developed surface rust. It's really annoying, but that was the only downside to it. Other than that, it was a great chuck. I don't necessarily think it needs to weigh this much, but it does, and that's a fact. It did actually start off as a metal turning chuck, which then Axminster adapted and made it into a wood turning chuck. Right, so I was using that up until about 18 months ago, something like that, which is when I bought my Jet 3520 lathe, and with it having a different spindle thread than my last lathe, I thought, you know, I need a new chuck, so I opted in for a Stronghold, a one-way Stronghold chuck. Now, let me state first of all, this is an expensive chuck. That's an expensive chuck, but this is a lot more expensive than that. You know, they're not cheap chucks, but what you're getting for that money, for that extra money, is good sound engineering. If anything, this thing's over-engineered. You know, it's just a really, really nice, heavy-duty piece of kit. Brilliant. And of course, it's got that anti-corrosion coating on. I'm not sure whether it's chrome or nickel plating. It may well be nickel. But this thing I cannot complain about at all. When I got it, it were as smooth as silk. Now, the Axminster chucks I've had in the past, when I first got those, they weren't smooth. You kind of had to wear them in a little bit. It took a couple of months to wear them in, and then they became smooth. This thing was, smooth as a baby's butt from day one, and it still is as smooth as a baby's butt. It's just brilliant. It's got anti-corrosion coating on the chuck jaws. Now I've had all types of wood in here, dry, moist, sopping wet through wood, and there's been no corrosion yet. The only thing that I thought might be a problem was that it had an open back. Now, on my Axminster Precision chuck, it's all been sealed up. Although, saying that, once a year I used to take this to pieces, and you'd be surprised how much dust had made its way into the back of this thing. Okay? On this, it's open. Dust can get in. But with it being open, it also means dust can get out as well. Now, generally I don't have to touch it. I may once in a while get the old cheap paintbrush out, stick it in the back, turn it a couple of times, and dust will fall out. But generally you don't have to do that. Generally the dust just falls out itself, or it gets thrown out under centrifugal force. But it really has been an excellent chuck. Highly delighted with it. It's expensive, they're expensive, but you know, you get what you pay for. Rolls Royces are expensive, but they're excellent cars. You know, BMWs are expensive, but they're excellent cars. So you get what you pay for, I suppose. If you do have an Axminster chuck and you're looking to get into off-centre turning, then they do sell an accessory, and this is it. Now this will fit onto the C jaws, onto the C-type jaws. Fit it on, expand it, and then you've got various settings that you can adjust. It's basically infinitely adjustable. And it's a cheap way of getting into off-centre turning. I mean, this thing, I think it was about £30, which would be about $50, at tops $50. And, you know, you can adjust it virtually infinitely. So it's a cheap way into off-centre turning, and that's why I've kept my Axminster chucks, because of this. I've also got a couple of face plates as well that fit onto the C-type jaws. So, you know, even though I use this most of the time, I haven't got rid of the other Axminster chucks because every now and again I do use them. But it's getting very rarely now that I do use them. But I ain't going to throw them away. No way. Right guys, that gives you a little bit of insight into the chucks I've used over the years. I've been very satisfied with the Axminster chucks, but really the one-way Stronghold chuck is in a bit of a different league really to those. The new Axminster chuck is they've done a new take on the Axminster Precision chuck. It's nothing like this one. It's a completely new chuck, and that's a really nice chuck. There's 3 chucks on the market that I would consider. Number 3 position would go to the latest Axminster Precision chuck. Number 2 would be the large Vitmark chuck. That's a nice chuck, well engineered. But number 1 position is Mr. One-Way Stronghold. Excellent chuck. You know, if you're looking for a new heavy duty chuck, you couldn't do better than one of these things. They're expensive, but hey, they're worth it. Right guys, I'll leave it there. I hope you'll join me on my other videos. I do enjoy making them, and I hope you enjoy watching them. I hope you'll maybe learn a little bit about things as well. Right, if you've got any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section. If you've enjoyed the video, please by all means hit the thumbs up button, or maybe you would like to join and subscribe. That would be super great and very smashing. Right, we'll leave it there guys. I'll catch you on another video. Take care now. Watch those fingers, those eyes, and most importantly those lungs, because you'll not be doing much wood turning without a pair of lungs. Catch you later guys. Bye bye now.